Coming from the Caveman Studios in Buffalo, New York. Welcome to Caveman Corner with your host, Jeff.
Captain Caveman!
Dance.
Click subscribe and the bell. Do it now!
I'm here with Troy Ferris. Troy's coming to us live from Buffalo Crowd. I shout them out one more time, supporting K4. You're fresh off your K4 victory. How you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good, Jeff. How are you doing?
I'm doing excellent, man. You know, I got my laundry done. You were early. It was perfect. You're one of the first guests that got here early. We worked out all the technical kinks, and we're ready to go on time. It doesn't get too much better than that.
Awesome. Just try to be punctual. That's one of my big things.
Nice. So you went through. Let's walk through your whole journey, I guess. You got a match for K4, and we want to pump K4 a lot, but let's step back in time a little bit. And you wrestled for Brockport. You made the state finals. You mastered the spladle. Lots of good stuff in your wrestling career. What happened after you got done high school wrestling?
So after I completed high school, I had Division I offers. I could have went and attacked. I had a choice to wrestle in college or not. I had like top 5 schools looking at me in the country, but I just decided not to because I didn't know where my heart was with what I wanted to do with my life, and I decided to just see if school was the right decision for me before I committed to as far as wrestling goes. I decided that after a semester of school that school wasn't for me. And I just started working, and then I was coaching wrestling. I've been coaching since I was 16, actually. So I just continued with the Brockport program. I had moved out here before I started jiu-jitsu, and I was coaching at Lancaster for about a year. That's about the time when I started, and I started doing jiu-jitsu, and now I'm coaching over at Booma, and I'm training and having a good time.
So I got a few questions about you. What made you not want to wrestle in college? I mean, high school wrestling is such a grind, man, and there's not a lot of rewards in wrestling. It's not like you're gonna get there's no NFL deal. They're not gonna be able to go play in the NBA. There's the only thing they can ever really achieve from it is the satisfaction of winning wrestling and maybe getting an offer to go to a school. I'm sure you could have got a scholarship, even if it wasn't, a top 5 school. I'm sure you could have probably got your ride paid. What made you not want to do that?
I was burned out at the time. My childhood, I was always coach's son. So my father actually. So when I was born, my father and my mother were still in college. And it was my father's senior year in college, and he had one more year left for wrestling at Brockport State. I actually got the chance to watch him All-American. And I had shoes to fill, and I was nervous about the shoes to fill. I had a lot of pressure on me because I'm sure Keith's son, Dylan. He's kind of got that same spotlight around him. Just because of, he's Keith's kid. And I know what that's like. It was a lot of pressure for me, and I didn't know if I could handle it. So it was a part that I rejected within myself. And then once I found jiu-jitsu, it reignited a love and passion for competition and making myself and others better. And it was actually a better fit for me than wrestling itself, if that makes sense.
So for people that never wrestled and they just do jiu-jitsu, it's not the same at all.
Not even close.
It's a completely different sport.
No, it is a completely different sport. You're exactly right. With wrestling, it's training like a Navy SEAL to be the best person, to be the best competitor you can possibly be. And it's the most cutthroat style of martial arts, and the fact that you could be what would be an equivalent to a black belt in wrestling versus a white belt in wrestling, and that's a match that can happen. So it's all about just the process of being the best. And if you ruminate in that, it can get to you, if that makes sense.
It's different too because there's less opportunities. So everyone you're training in the room with that's your weight, they're fighting for your spot too. It's not like jujitsu at all. Like you're in real serious competition with each other in your training group. And jujitsu, it seems totally different. It's like it's a lot more friendly. Like so, the training is just as hard, but it's like a different environment. You know, that's in my opinion. That's what I've experienced.
Jiu-jitsu is so much more positive, and less of a grind. Well, you can make jiu-jitsu a crazy grind, just like wrestling. But you can also be successful in jiu-jitsu without that, with a more of a playful mentality, if that makes sense. And
Yeah, for sure.
with wrestling, if you have a playful mentality about it, it's very hard to be successful. It's because
by a lot.
right, exactly. Unless you're Yanni Diakomahalis, you know, and then you can make it playful. But otherwise, you have to be a killer, and your whole psyche has to be framed around that. And it's the best part about it, and it's also it's kryptonite as well, you know.
Yeah. While we're talking about jiu-jitsu and success, shout out to your teammate Melinda. Took silver and brown belt nogi. I forgot what she took in absolute. I was gonna say the whole thing, but I don't know what she took in absolute, but she completed absolute as well. So congratulations, Melinda.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I'm so proud of her. I actually posted on my story about her. We have, especially over at Boomlick, let me tell you, we have some world-class girls at Booma. We got Melinda, like you just spoke about her. We also have Genevieve. She's her and I's jiu-jitsu journey began together, actually. And we also have Bree, Professor Dan Donahue's girlfriend. She's also very, very elite as well.
Yeah, we had her in at the gym a couple of times. She came with Dan when Dan did a couple seminars for us. So it was awesome. They're a great couple too. V's been in the train, obviously, you know. You do have a wonderful training. Let's jump back just a little bit. So you started under Professor Eduardo. What was like the transition from wrestling to jiu-jitsu, and how did he help you make that transition?
Oh man, that's actually a perfect lead-in with my beginning my jiu-jitsu journey with my teammate Genevieve, as I was just speaking about, because she was part of that group over at Spar as well, and she'll be the first one to tell you. Actually, I wasn't very much liked when I first started, because I was, you know, the crazy wrestler that thought wrestling could beat jiu-jitsu all the time, and that was my mentality. Because when I started jiu-jitsu, I was thinking, oh, I'll just do it for fun, just to get back on the mats, you know, see, and try it out, see if I like it, and I fell in love with it. The way Eduardo teaches as a professor is what he's so humble, and he's so analytical about positions, and I fell in love with the way he taught, and I just was training 3-4 hours a day, 6 days a week, and my drill partner was that woman I mentioned, Genevieve, and as that progressed through my first 2 years in jiu-jitsu, I felt like this was the love that I had been missing in grappling. And I knew that this was a good place for me to be with what I have to offer as a human. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I definitely understand what you're saying. So when you first transitioned, did you feel the difference in the room at first, or did you feel like, because you're a little bit of an outsider, did it feel just like wrestling where it was like kind of closed?
It felt like wrestling at first, and then I started going with much higher belts than myself at the time because I was obviously a white belt when I started, and I would be going up against blue belts and purple belts, and I'd be more than holding my own and doing very well. And I was like, oh, like I'm actually pretty good at this. And then I would go with a brown or black belt, and I would get toyed with. And I was like, why is my wrestling not working? And I started to piece together that the way I thought about wrestling and my growth in that sport and trying to be better at techniques within that sport, I could just transfer that same mindset to learning techniques in jiu-jitsu. And it's been very, very beneficial for me because I've been growing a lot because my jiu-jitsu game has been getting much better. If that could make sense.
That definitely makes sense. That's a great thing about wrestling. It really teaches you how to learn how to use your body. It really is the same as jiu-jitsu with just the different rules. So, I mean, the rules affect on what the strategy and what techniques you're going to use. Obviously, in wrestling, you don't want to go to your back. You're not going to be playing guard stuff. You're not going to do like things that expose your back. The bad things are you're going to turn your belly and expose your back for jiu-jitsu. It's almost like the complete opposite. Everything you do in wrestling is almost backwards, but not quite. It was a very difficult transition for me at first too. So I know what you're talking about, and I was the same way. I was always like the outsider guy, the guy that went too hard because I didn't understand like everyone else is not here to like put that wrestling grind in every role. They're always trying to work their technique, and then
Yep.
it takes a while, and then you kind of like people start to open up to you, and I think as we get more and more wrestlers into the sport, transitioning into the sport. Now we got guys that start doing both, so it never happens. But if you can, you take a couple minutes and just work with that guy and smash him a couple times and be like, hey, just slow down a little bit, and everyone will want to train with you, and you'll learn a lot quicker when everyone wants to help you instead of smashing people all the time.
It's so funny you said that because I like 2 weeks before my fight versus Elfrey, we have this one kid at Buma. And he's a 15-year-old kid. He's about my size, so he's a little bit bigger. So he trains with the adults, and he's a wrestler. And he was going up against me and trying to wrestle me the whole time. And I showed him. I showed him exactly like, hey, listen, slow down. Get people to actually enjoy training with you, so that when you're problem solving through a technique, you can have people to ask. The biggest thing that I found that jiu-jitsu has helped me with in my life is my relationships with people. I have developed some of my best friendships within the sport. It's actually amazing because I've never found a place with such accepting like-minded individuals as the jiu-jitsu community in Buffalo, regardless of which gym it's at, because I have friends at many different gyms, especially my friends over at WNY as well.
So I'm gonna put our hashtag or our highlight in here right now. We know there's a lot of stuff going on in the community. We talked about it beforehand. We're not gonna like throw any fire. We're not trying to make any fires happen here. We're just trying to go through Troy's experience.
Yep.
I know Mike tagged me in some stuff, and like I got lots of messages. Like, am I gonna go into it? Like, I'm not really here to stir up trouble. Like, when I have people on the podcast, I want the guest to be able to tell their story. It's not about like causing drama and stuff. I got even more messages when I was telling people I was going to have you on. So I wanted to just put this in here right now. So if you're waiting for a firestorm to happen, you guys can go click off. And we're just going to tell Troy's story today. So now you've been training with Eduardo. You're pretty well with yourself on the mats. And now you're blue belt, right? When you made the transition at Buma, can you talk about that transition and what's been going on?
So my transition into blue belt, and I actually, I don't know if you remember when I fought Elfrey's brother Alex. Yes. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Okay, so I was still a white belt back then, and I was planning on competing at Pan Am's that year. I did, and I went and I took third. And after I came back, actually, my teammate Genevieve won it while I was there too. So she won white belt pans, and I took third. We went back, and we both got promoted at the same time at Spar. The next competition that I was planning on going to was the Buffalo Classic, and I was training for that. It was for my first competition at blue belt, and a week before, I popped a ligament in my knee, and I was hurt. So I had to spend all of 2023 rehabbing myself because I had two tears in my knee, and it was kind of discouraging. I wasn't training.
Did you have surgery, or did you just rehab them?
Just rehab. I didn't have surgery. They're two smaller ligaments, so it wasn't like a major surgery, but it was something I still needed to pay attention to if I wanted to continue my fight career. So I needed to make sure that I was healthy to be able to train and compete. So while I was injured, actually, Keith had come up to me while I was taking care of him at Buffalo Cryo. And he asked me if I could teach wrestling and maybe help out with kids class for them. And I told him I was down because of I was also a little fed up, not with Eduardo, but the things that were happening that went on Facebook that you were talking about before. I was kind of fed up with things going on around that scenario, and Keith talking to me about that kind of was an easy way to get me out the door and into Booma.
Nice. Checking your messages.
Oh yeah. Hold on.
Oh, we went in dead zone. Buffalo Crowd's good for rehabilitation, but don't take your phone in there. You're gonna get some dead zones.
Sorry.
Oh, no worries.
Am I good on camera now?
Yep, you're perfect.
Okay. Awesome. So yeah, that as far as like my jiu-jitsu journey going over, like transitioning over to Booma, that's kind of what happened. As soon as I got healthy, I started coaching and started training over there, and I've never felt more at home. I love my people over at Booma. My teammates are great. My coaches are great. Keith and Josh, they do a phenomenal job running that place, and it's exactly aligned with my values as a human, which I value more than anything else, more than any dollar amount of. I prefer people with good aligning principles with who I am.
Yeah. Did Josh convince you to be carnivore yet?
I actually tried carnivore before Josh, or not before Josh, but before Josh got to me.
Mm-hmm. What did you think?
I felt really good. It's something that's difficult for me to keep up, like financially, just because meat is expensive a lot. But it's something that I felt really good doing. I felt very clean and efficient, which is something I value when I'm competing. Efficiency is the most important thing when it comes to fighting and any martial art.
I agree. I love the carnivore diet too. I just wanted to see if he got you guys. I'm sure he gets everyone at Booma. Like he's all over it. I love it. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
What's it like having so many black belts there? So many like good black belts too. You got Gray, you got Dan Donahue, like Larry, Josh, Keith. Like you got a whole bunch of new black belts now.
Yeah.
What's it like?
So a lot of the new black belts that we just got are people who I've been working with very closely. So there's 4 4 new black belts that we got, Jay, and we also got Doug, Dave, and Minhas.
Mm-hmm.
So Doug, Dave, and Minhas, those 3 have been really, really helping me with my game. And actually, I was working with the 3 of them game planning against Elfrey, because one of the things that I was worried about was leg locks from him, actually. So it was one of the things I wanted to shut down. And Doug is very well versed in that. So is Dave. And then also having Minhas, who is a very similar frame. He's a little bit heavier, but he's very similar frame to Elfrey. It was very helpful for me as far as what was actually going to be working in my fight, and how I wanted to go about actually competing.
Do you prefer gi or no gi more?
It's funny you say that. I prefer gi, but I'm more efficient at no gi.
Yeah, a lot of wrestlers do that. They when they transfer over, they like gi much better. There's so much more to it. It's a lot more technical, more strategies, I think.
Yeah, so my style when I was a wrestler, or as a competitor when I was a wrestler, was very catch, try to make you like counter offense, try to get you to make a mistake, so that I could capitalize. And with the gi, when you have the gi as a tool, it allows you to use that skill set times 10. Because you can like hold people in positions, like pushing their collar and their sleeve, and they're controlling their posture in different ways, and it sets up a lot of, like, the gi opens up a lot of windows where no gi, though I'm more well versed in having no grips, if that makes sense, because of my training as a wrestler, there's less options available, you know?
Yeah, I agree. And it's harder to like just maintain control over someone. With the gi, you have so much more control over everyone. Like you can get a collar and a sleeve, and they're not going anywhere. You know, like you're able to initiate your offense when you're on top. On the bottom, they're like squirrely. It's hard to hold. You have to have like such good tight connection. It's hard to start working your offense at times.
Right.
Especially you young guys that are all fast and swift.
Yeah, no, so I'm actually slow. I seem faster than I actually am, and that's something that I talk about with a kid that I work with, Nate, over at Booma. He's trying to wrestle in college. He's a senior in high school, and I've been working with him, trying to actually teach him how to use timing to his advantage, so that it seems like he's fast when he's actually just really sharp as to when to pull the trigger on a takedown.
Yeah, definitely. I believe Nate's been in my place a few times. Well, Nate's the one that works with Doug and Julio all the time, the younger kid, about like 180 pounds.
Yeah. That's Nate.
Yeah.
I don't know if you were there at the Buffalo Open. He's the kid that dislocated his elbow.
Oh no, I was there, but I must have not been around. I didn't see that. That's terrible.
Yeah. Well, he's healthy now, but it was a little setback that we had to deal with.
We're like, well, your elbow's dislocated. Ha, sucker. Poor Nate. So
okay.
what's in the future for you? You can continue teaching at Booma and continue to compete. I know you're looking for some sponsors. What are you looking to do in the future?
So ideally, like if I could have Troy's perfect world, I'm flying to different cities and competing every month. I'm trying to get on K4 as much as I can, whether it's super fights or tournaments. I'm trying to compete as much as possible, and in order to do that, I need a little bit of help, which is why I'm looking for sponsorships. I actually had asked Catalyst Fitness for a sponsorship. I actually work there as well. But I'm looking for anyone who would be interested in helping me. I would like to maybe if you're interested, just please reach out and I can sit down and have a conversation. We can talk, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And like I'm always trying to hook people up with sponsors. Anyone in the health industry should be interested in helping you. Like you're a Buffalo Cryo, you're a Catalyst, you're doing all these things. You're a great wrestler, good teacher. So these are all, they all fall in line with a lot of the facilities. Or get a weed sponsor. They sponsor everybody.
Yep.
You talk about go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I was waiting for you.
Oh, I was gonna say, you talked about growing K4. Do you think they need more grappling matches? I thought your and Elfer's match was pretty exciting. I love that the main event was a grappling match as well. I think K4 could use some more grappling, some good grappling too, and have it more like the one FC. They already have Muay Thai, they have MMA. I think grappling really adds to the shows.
I think K4 definitely needs more grappling. It's actually something I've talked with Keith about. Because, and the reason I say that is because the layman who doesn't train martial arts at all, that wants to go watch the fights, when they see an MMA fight and it goes to the ground and they don't really understand what's going on, when they have grappling matches to actually reference off of, they'll actually be able to understand what's happening on the ground in an MMA fight to make it more interesting. So I think grappling, like having grappling matches sprinkled in at the K4 fights, will actually help grow K4 in itself, just because you're going to get a stronger base of people,
Yeah, for sure. What did you think about the main event? Brandon Hay and Zion Clark. That was pretty awesome.
Oh my goodness, that was amazing. I was lucky enough to be cornering Zion in that match. So I actually followed Zion back when I was a kid, because he's a couple years older than me. And I watched him wrestle all through high school and all that. So it was actually kind of cool getting a chance to meet Zion, and what kind of person he is. I was rolling with him warming up before his fight, and let me tell you, people may have had their ideas about a guy that doesn't have any legs, and they can have their ideas about it, but they're wrong, because fighting a guy that doesn't have legs, you're not used to it. When I train, I'm used to having to deal with a knee or the hip line, where his hip line is his feet. So he just slips past your guard and you can't really do much. He's really hard to gain control of because he doesn't have a lot to him other than his upper body. So you have to really be creative, and it's something that I was interested in watching, because as a student of the game, I wonder what would be successful against a body type like that.
Yeah, obviously we saw the guillotines didn't work. Brandon was not able to on top. He was not able to. You almost have to go arm in, because he's so much bigger than the guy at the weight class, and Brandon's already much bigger than him, 95 against 125. So there's not a lot of room to get around his arms. It's so hard to choke him. You can't sit in guillotine because there's nothing to connect to, because it's just going to go over. I was surprised Brandon was actually able to hold him in mount too when he walked his arms up. I guess that would be the way to beat him, but that's got to be pretty tough,
Yeah, no, and listen, Zion's no slouch, man. Zion is a tough dude. He was Division I wrestler at Kent State. He's a pro MMA fighter now, and it was very cool to watch. He's such a good dude too. I hung out with him after. Such a great guy to hang out with. And honestly, that's more my favorite part about the fight community is how relatable we are to each other, because of what fighting teaches you about yourself as a human.
Yeah, 100%. the one thing that I really like about the fights is like after the fights, everyone is almost always generally cool. There's very rarely anything backstage unless there's a 765 guy. No offense, 765 guys, you kind of suck. But other than that, like everyone's super respectful of each other after the fight. You know, you go in there and you fight, and then you come out and everyone's cool. Like I really, that's one of the best parts about the shows for me is like everyone's like very cordial after.
Yeah, well, Keith does a great job running that event. I can't think of a better person to do that job that he does. He kills it every time. The event is clean and crisp. Everything usually runs smoothly. And even as a spectator of those events, like because I get to watch the fights a lot when I'm not on those cards, and it's such a great experience as a fan as well. You know what I mean? That and I love that for K4, for Buffalo as a fight community in general, but also for Keith and his family and Buma and all that. He really does an amazing.
Keith does such a good job too. He spends extra money to make sure that the fans get a good show. He puts the extra screens up so there's video of everything and you can see the replays. He does a lot of extra stuff that a lot of other promoters don't do just to make K4 a great experience. And you guys make sure you're paying. You keep your calendars open. February 1st is going to be the next K4. Location undisclosed. Even I don't know where it is. So pay attention and. We're gonna hopefully we'll see you out there. I'll be out there for sure. You know, I'm coming along. Anything else you want to talk about while we got you here?
I guess there's not really much else I need to talk about. I mean, on February 1st, regardless of whether I'm on that card or not, I'm going to be there. So if I'm not on the card, you'll see me there as a spectator. But if I'm on the card, you'll get to enjoy me performing for you guys. You know, I love doing it. It's such a cool experience. Getting to see a highlight on my Instagram of me winning a fight that like I never would have thought that would have happened when I was 5 years old, wrestling in the wrestling room for youth practice after the high school kids got done. You know what I mean? I just think about when I was little and training. I just never would have thought that. I always envied and looked up to that, and I think it's such a cool opportunity to see, you know.
Yeah, 100%. Do you like? I just thought of one other question while you're talking about that. Do you like performing in a cage better, or would you rather be like on the world stage, like on the mat? You know, it's like two different arenas, really.
That is that's an amazing question, actually, because they're very different. I would say I'm more used to that like high level, like open area of I'm at a tournament style, if that makes sense. Like if I'm competing at Worlds or Pans or whatever that tournament is, I'm more used to that style of competing. But when I stepped into the cage against Alex and when I stepped into the cage against Elfrey, it was so different. It's so much more electrifying, and you can, it feels spiritually different in the cage. It's addicting.
It definitely is.
I didn't think it would be like that, but you know.
Well, hopefully we'll convince you to put some 4-ounce gloves on and get in there and really feel the cage.
I know. Everyone. So I've actually done a little bit of Muay Thai too, so I'm not afraid of that. I just, I don't. I'm at a point now where I think I'm going to try and be one of the grapplers, and hopefully Alfrey's on those cards too. I want to see him as well compete. I don't want to be the only grappler that gets grappling matches, you know. I'd like to see it grow, but I'm not opposed to the idea. I've trained a little bit of Muay Thai. I know that my teammates and my coaches with Keith and Josh Reichard over there would be great to help me with Muay Thai if I ever wanted to put on the gloves.
Yeah, you should definitely think about doing it. Also, hopefully you get a match for Fight to Win. I don't know. I haven't heard any matchups for Fight to Win yet. I know they're coming the day before ADCC. I wish we got a little bit more advance notice they were coming because we got our crew going to ADCC now. So it's like the day before ADCC, so it's a little bit rough for us to get out there.
Yeah. As far as the Fight to Win card goes, the deadline for the fighter applications was on Friday. So I'm assuming they're making matchups right now or tomorrow because the event's coming up soon. They travel around the United States. So I hope I'm lucky enough to get on that card. I know we got a couple of competitors from Buma going over to across the border to go to ADTC, so I hope we do well over there.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you coming on. Sorry to rush you in here and like, oh man, can you do 8? Like, I had a lot of stuff to do, but I'm glad I got you on. I'm definitely make time for you. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for pumping Buma. Thank you for pumping K4. Remember, if Troy does compete, K4 Ferris gets him his ticket credit.
Thank you, Caveman. I appreciate it. I appreciate you having me on and giving me an opportunity. It's very, very helpful for me. So I also would love to come down and visit you over at Integrity. I know that we can have some friends over there as well. So great talking to you.
Awesome. Oh, one more time. Can you shout your socials for anyone that's trying to get you sponsorship? We talked about sponsorship. We didn't put out your social media stuff.
Yes. Anyone trying to sponsor me, please reach out to me on my Instagram. That's the best way to. That's outside of my phone number. So that would be Troy Ferris, just my first and last name _BJJ_fitness. You'll see me tagged all through K4, tagged all through Buma, and a bunch of my teammates as well. So if you're interested in reaching out to sponsor me, I am open to hear anything. So please do. I'm grateful for any attention that could bring. Okay.
Thank you so much, and have a nice night, Troy. Appreciate you.